should stabilize. I'll also just cross-check if everything is working as expected. Just give me a couple of minutes. If there is any issue, do let me know on the chat window. So let's just wait for it.
Been joining live.
Yeah, so I can hear myself, so there are no issues here. Sounds good. So let's see the comment section. We'll wait for a couple of minutes for everyone to join in since we just started the session, right? So let's go into it. Okay, let me also, okay. So somebody says, please make a session on Seaborn. I think I mentioned this yesterday also, right? So we will do one session just on Seaborn library. But very importantly, the reason we are spending so much time on Python is one thing that you all have to realize and remember is that libraries come and go. Seaborn wasn't there when I was learning Python, when I was using it. Actually, TensorFlow wasn't there when I was learning machine learning, right? So if you are strong in fundamentals of Python, right, the basics of Python, what are functions, how to use them, the basic stuff that we're trying to cover now. If you're strong with foundations of Python, given any library, you should be able to pick it up, right? Whether it is Seaborn, any other library. See, at the end of the day, a library or a module is simply a collection of classes. And classes consists of some attributes and functions, right? If you're confident with the basics of Python, again, somebody asked me, would we cover classes in a lot more detail? I want to cover classes. Again, I think in the very first live session, I gave you the intuitive understanding of classes. So I'll do one live session just on object-oriented programming, where I will discuss about object-oriented programming, not from toy examples. So not from toy examples, but by using much more concrete concepts of object-oriented programming in the context of machine learning and AI libraries, right? Because I've seen a lot of people who are good with toy examples who don't know how to connect it to real world. So I'm just waiting for us to finish the basics of Python, the very basics, then we'll go to object-oriented the basics of object-oriented programming. Again, I'll not be covering object-oriented design, but by the end of it, I think you should become comfortable enough to learn any new package that is thrown at you. That is the level of skill that you all should arrive at, right? So somebody says, please make a live session on speech to text after lockdown. We have a live session, no? So we have a live session on speech to text. I think it's publicly available. We did a live session called using web APIs. So I think the live session name is called using web APIs, right? Of course, this is not just the mathematics of speech to text, because explaining the mathematics of speech to text cannot be done in one live session. I think we spent some 6 or 7 live sessions just to cover the basics of transformers, all the advanced models, attention models, BERT, etc. Right? So it cannot be done in one live session. But if you want a shortcut, just go check out this live session that we have done. It's available on YouTube. It's called using web APIs. One of the examples that I take here is given speech, how do you get text? It's already available. Please check it. Okay, sounds good. Hey, I really want to watch the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which I watched when I was young, but I don't have bandwidth. I really am looking forward to I don't know when I'll get time. It's a beautiful, I mean, I learned a lot about Indian mythology watching these. So somebody says, I've recently joined the course. I've started watching YouTube module 1. Watching module 1, are these videos helpful for me? Abhishek, some of these, that's why I'm giving the context now. I'm saying this session will be on strings and regexes. If you have gone through strings and regexes, I think this will be helpful. Otherwise, we'll add these videos, we'll cut them, add it to our course videos also. So you can always watch it later. Don't worry about it. Okay, sounds good. Somebody says, is MacBook Pro good enough for data science? Of course, it's not very good for deep learning because deep learning, NVIDIA graphics cards are better. But for most of it, I use a MacBook Pro myself. It works fairly well for most tasks. Okay, sounds good, folks. Since it's already 6:02, I don't want to spend any more time on other topics. Very importantly, I have a meeting at 7 p.m. So I will have to make this a 1-hour live session. Unfortunately, I could not change this timing. So today we'll do a 1-hour session. We'll try to solve 2 problems, but I'll make up for this by continuing on the same strings and regexes tomorrow also, right? So that's very important. So today, unfortunately, because I have a meeting that I cannot skip, I have to attend. So we'll just limit ourselves to 1 hour, and we'll solve a couple of problems, and I'll go over the basics of regexes because some of you emailed me that you're not comfortable and things like that. So we'll keep going. So a couple of questions. Is the mathematics content required for strings and regexes? No, you don't require this, right? So let's go into the live session itself. I have my notes. Okay, so sorry. So this is also important. There is a reason why I have this open. This is also very important. I'll come to that. Okay, so let's spend the next 1 hour as fruitfully as possible. Wherever we stop, we'll continue from there tomorrow. Okay, so first and foremost, since we have done some mathematical programming, some simple recursion, some basic stuff, right? We also learned how to fix bugs in Python. Now we'll look at strings and regexes. This is extremely important because a lot of jobs and lot of work that data scientists, machine learning engineers do is around text, right? Text is one of the most widely available pieces of information at our disposal. And text is mostly strings. Regex is a short form for regular expressions, right? Again, those of you who come from computer science background should know regular expressions much better than non-computer science folks. Regular expressions is something that you may have learned in your theory of computation, right? I mean, this is an undergraduate level subject in which you must have learned about finite automata and regular expressions. It is the same regular expressions here. So if you're a computer science student and if you're going for an interview, especially for a machine learning role, you might want to brush up a little bit of finite automata also sometimes, not always. Again, even if you know basic regexes, that's good enough, don't worry. But I just want to connect these dots. You all learn about theory of computation, finite automata, and you think, hey, this is a math subject I'm not going to use anywhere in my life. But regexes are so widely used across the world, right? Especially when you're processing text. So I'm going to assume that you know some of the basics of strings and Python, strings and regexes. I'm assuming that you know some of these. But what I'll do is, since some of you may not be very comfortable with regexes, I'll do a quick recap. And I'll provide some reference links. I'll use reference links to recap regexes, right? And then we'll solve a couple of very simple real world problems that you would solve as an engineer somewhere, right? Next, so the prerequisite is some basic knowledge of strings and regexes. And I'm assuming that you've gone through some of the previous code sessions that we have done in this series so that you know the basics of Python and how to read documentation and things like that. Again, there are a bunch of references I'm pointing. My favorite references are always the Python docs. But there are also other nice references from W3 Schools. Again, W3 Schools has been one of my favorite places which I've been learning from a BTech first year because their explanation is very simple, elegant, beautiful. Geeks for Geeks sometimes can become overwhelming because there is so much that is thrown at you, right? So first let's go a couple of things. We'll go through some simple examples to understand regexes better. Again, I can't emphasize the importance of regular expressions, right? Again, today we may not be able to cover it, but tomorrow I'll walk you through a couple of real world interview questions that are actually asked. I've asked this myself, by the way. When you go for a machine learning interview or even for a software engineer interview around regexes, around simple Python programming. It's a very common type of interview questions that you will encounter. Okay, especially if you're a computer science student, more so. If you're a non-computer science student, people may say, okay, this guy may not know regular expressions as much, so it's okay. Again, one of the things that I keep seeing very often, especially among students from India, again, I also see this from students across the world, but more from India, is we do not learn to learn as part of our education. If you ask me, one of the most important skills that you should have, that you should learn, I would call it one of the most important life skills, right? Just like problem solving is a transferable life skill, so is being able to learn from resources. There are like billions of resources on the internet to learn. You just have to Google search, be patient to learn, right? So I wanted to show you that in the context of regular expressions. Obviously, the best place is Python docs, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed by Python docs because these are written in a very rigorous format. Again, this is Python 3.8 documentation, regular expressions, and this is a huge page. If you see this is a massive page. It's very common for people to get lost in this huge thing, right? I completely understand that, but this is a great reference. This is a type of pages that I go to when I forget regular expressions. By the way, please don't think that I remember everything in regular expressions in Python. I don't very often. I get stuck, I just go to documentation, I read it. Even while writing these notes in the morning today, I got stuck a few times and I said, okay, let me go read up the documentation. Again, if you are writing regular expressions regularly, obviously you will not forget it. But I don't do it. Of course, I review a lot of code, but then I'm not writing it, so I've forgotten some of it. But I have the key live skill that I can pick it up within just a few minutes, sometimes in a couple of hours, right? Then, as I told you, W3 Schools is a very nice resource. If you just Google search for regular expressions Python tutorial, this is one of the things that you get, right? So I want to walk you through this. I hope I've zoomed it enough. Okay, let me zoom it in so that everybody can see this. There is some distraction, but again, the reason I like W3 Schools is because it is extremely simple to pick up a concept. There are many other resources, by the way. I'll show you other resources also. But typically, again, I've learned JavaScript, complete JavaScript. I picked it up over a weekend by going through W3 Schools. I mean, I wanted to build a website, I think in my BTech, I forgot which year. And I thought, okay, what is there? I know the basics of programming. Again, programming is a skill which is, if you know one programming language, picking up other programming languages, at least the basics should not take you much time, right? So I started off my programming with C++ and Fox Pro, Visual Fox Pro. Right? This is a Windows programming language. But then I quickly picked up other languages whenever I needed. I wrote code in Perl, I wrote code in Java, I wrote code in Python. Now I've stuck to Python mostly. I've written code in R, every major programming. I've written code in C#. Anyway, so back to this. So let's look at this. Regex is a module, right? I'm assuming you all know what is a module. Module is basically a bunch of important functionality put in together. So if you want to use regular expressions, you import RE. Now what I like with this is there are simple examples here. Okay. So I'm assuming, again, please understand that I'm assuming that you know at least some basics of regular expressions and strings. That's my prerequisite here. Please don't. So I'm not going to teach you everything in regular expressions. The objective of going through this page is to help you understand resources that are publicly available through which you can also learn. Of course, it will take more time, no doubt about it, but there are tons of resources. Good resources. I really like W3 Schools. Okay. I mean, because I've used it personally. So look at this. Suppose if you want to search for a string, if you want to search the string to see if it starts in the and ends in Spain. Very simple. This is what you want to do. Again, regular expressions are used to do pattern matching. For example, take this string or take this text, right? I want to find out if this text starts with the and ends in Spain. Whatever is there in between, I don't care, right? How do you write a regular expression? Again, okay, it's always important to read others' code also. When you get stuck, there is always reference to go through, right? So first and foremost, right? So you say, okay, this is my text. Okay, what is re.search? If you don't know what is re.search, just go here and say search. This is the documentation, right? So this is re.search. Okay, what does the search function do? Look at this. Scan through the string looking for any location where this regular expression matches. Okay, I can go to the documentation here. What does it say? It says I have to give the string. Look at this. It is basically scanning through the string to find the occurrences, right? So my regular expression.search. Okay, let me go back to the original documentation page. Yeah, this is a big page as I told you. Now, okay, sorry. Let me go down here. Okay, so here I want to search for a string. I want to verify whether this string starts in the and ends in Spain. How do I do it? So the moment I see this cap symbol. What does this cap symbol mean? It means starting. And if you've forgotten that, you can always go to this reference. Look at this. You can always go to this reference and search for cap. Right? So where is this cap? Okay. Go down, go up. See, look at this. On the right side, you can see where the cap is first mentioned. Okay, cap, this is called as a cap symbol. So the exponentiation symbol. So where is it represented? Okay, look at this. Usually cap matches only the beginning of the string and dollar matches only at the end of the string. So what you're trying to tell now is you're saying in this text, I want to find this pattern. Again, this is called the text, right? Or the string, and this is the pattern that I want to match. And what is the pattern that I want to match? I want this string to start in the, look at this, what does this mean? This means start with capital T, H-E, then, okay, so that's the first part, followed by dot star. Now what does dot star mean? If you have forgotten it, it is just in the documentation. Let's go read the documentation. Oh, there are actually multiple nice resources. Oh, there is also this page that I mentioned earlier, right? This is also nice operators, all the documentation. Okay, so let's go here and dot. Let's just search for where dot is. Oh, dot is there at so many places. Look at all these yellow things. Okay, where is dot? Dot operator. Okay, the special character, it's not an operator, it's just a special character, dot. In the default mode, this matches any character except the new line character. Right? So what does this mean? This means, now what does this pattern mean? This pattern means I want this will result, so basically this text will match this pattern if and only if this text starts with the, followed by the second part here. Look at the second part. The second part says dot. Dot will match anything except new line character. New line characters are your \n. Right? It will match anything. It will match space. It will match R. It will match A. It will match everything. What does dot star mean? Again, if you don't know what star is, right, you can always go here. Star. Star basically causes the resulting regular expression to match 0 or more repetitions of the preceding regular expression. What does that mean? It's very simple. So it means, so the will match. So this will match this very good. Then the dot star. Dot star basically means any character repeated 0 or more times. So if you look at this, I have a space, I have R, A, I, N, space, I, N, space. So what is happening here? This dot star will match all of this because this is basically 0 or more characters. What this is saying here is, it could be 0 or more characters. Then it is saying Spain and $. What does $$ mean? $$ means end of the string. So what this pattern is literally telling us, again, this is a quick recap that I'm trying to do. What this pattern is telling us is that the string should start in the, followed by 0 or more any characters, I don't care. Then it should always end in Spain. Right? So the good thing with W3 schools is you can try the code yourself. You can execute the code. For example, remember if I change this, if I just have the Spain, run the code. Again, they give you an online compiler also. Beautiful actually. Yes, we have a match. Look at this. This x re.search, right? If this match works, x is not none. X is the result that you get. Right? If x, then just print it, else no match. What does it print? It says, yes, we have a match. It is matching the Spain also. What if I have this? Will it match or not? I don't have any space here. Nothing, Spain. Will it match or not? Just let's see. Will it match or not? It's a very simple thing. Will it match or not? I'm looking for some ideas. Somebody says, can we have a session on web scraping? We actually have done a session on web scraping using Beautiful Soup already. So, yeah. Okay, where were we? I asked a question, right? Can anybody help me with that? So the question that I asked you here is, with this regular expression, will the Spain work or not? Yes or no? It's a simple yes or no. No, yes, okay, all over the place. No, there are more no's than yes, okay? Okay, no, it will not, yes, it will, okay, all over the place. Okay, let's run it. I changed it, right? The Spain. Yes, we have a match. Why is there a match? Again, that's the importance of regular expressions. Regular expressions can be extremely confusing. It's very easy to make a mistake. What does this pattern tell us? This pattern tells us that it should start with this is matching this right? So let's just strike it off. This is matching this very good. Then dot star. Dot star means 0 or more repetitions of any character except \n, right? So here what do you have? You don't have any characters. It could be 0 character. What this means is 0 or more repetitions, which means no character is also means 0 characters, no? So it could be 0 or more characters. So after the, I don't have any characters, this pane matches. Remember, this pane matches this pane. And this is the end of the string, this is the end of the string. That's why this is matching. So very often people make this mistake of ignoring the fact that dot star basically means 0 or more repetitions. So when you are learning code from external resources, it's very important for you to try out these boundary cases. Ask these interesting and important questions. Okay. Again, this is a very, very simple example. Again, in regular expressions, there are a bunch of functions. There is something called find all, which returns a list of all the matching occurrences. It returns a list of matching occurrences. Of course, if you want more documentation, we can read the documentation in Python docs. Don't ignore Python docs. Anything at the end of the day, if you go to Python docs for any function that you have, as long as you know what is the input and what is the output and what this function does, you can use this. All you have to ensure is that you are passing the right input, you are getting the right output, you are processing the output correctly, and you have understood what the function does. That's all there is. So today, reading the Python documentation is the most important thing. Again, there are a bunch of functionalities here. I am assuming some of you know this at least. Again, I'll describe some of them later on also, right? So again, there is a huge list of, again, if you go to this documentation, right, there is a huge list of rules on how to write regular expressions. To be honest with you, I don't remember all these rules, but when I get stuck, I go to this documentation. This is Python 3 regular expression operations. It's a beautiful resource. And again, whenever I get stuck, I just search for this. This is a huge document. Look at the size of this document. It's a huge document. So nobody can keep, at least because I don't write these regular expressions every day. If I've written this every day, there were days when I wrote regular expressions day in, day out. I remembered it by heart. But I've not done it in the recent past, so I don't remember it. But I know where to find and where to debug things, right? So it's very important for you to go through these external resources. My suggestion here is, when you're going through any external resource, when you encounter any function, the most important thing is, what is the input to the function? What does this function do? And what is the output to this function? Right? Read that in the Python documentation. Read that in the documentation. This is super duper important. Again, there are a bunch of functions that you can do. I'm assuming, again, those of you who are not comfortable with regexes, since this is only the first session, as I mentioned, as we got started, I'll spend 1 hour today. Tomorrow we'll spend 2, if time permits, slightly more than 2 hours. And those of you who are not comfortable with regexes, I strongly recommend you go through these resources and come for tomorrow's session. Okay, those who are not comfortable. Those who are comfortable will be able to understand what I'm discussing now. Again, those who are not comfortable also can follow, but still know some of the basics of regular expressions and strings, will be able to follow through what I'm explaining, right? But I've just listed this so that you guys can prepare for the tomorrow's session better, in case you have not brushed this up. Again, this is my favorite resource, library re.html. This is like literally the documentation page. Okay, so let's take a real world problem. Okay, so we'll break up this problem into 2 parts. First is, I want to mask personal information in an email or phone number. You may have encountered this, right? You get an SMS from your bank wherein they say, okay, we have sent a mail to so-and-so, so-and-so. Imagine if my email address is some name at something.this. I don't want to write, so imagine if this is my email address. Okay. Imagine if this is my email address. I want you to mask it and print this email address, which I'll send using SMS. So what are the rules? Look at this. If this whole thing is my email address, I want you to keep the first character, right? I want you to keep the last character as is. All the characters in between, I want you to replace them with 5 hashes exactly, right? Ampersand stays the same, the whole domain name. So let's call it 2 things, right? This is my name at some domain name. The domain name stays the same. This way, again, what are you doing here? You're masking the email address. Suppose a bank has to send me an SMS saying, hey, we have sent you an OTP to your registered email address, which is C hash or 5 hashes A at gmail.com. So by looking at this, I know that, yes, I know my email starts with C, my email ends with A. Again, that's not my email, by the way. And I know that there are hashes in between. This way, even if someone else reads the SMS, they don't know what my email address is. They don't even know how many characters are there in my email address. Because how many ever characters are here, I'm going to replace it with 5 hashes, right? So this is what is often called as a masking problem. It is a problem that is often asked. I mean, this is a very simple problem asked in interviews. I've seen this being asked, especially not at product-based companies for sure, but I've seen this being asked to some of our students. It's a very real-world problem. So can you mask your email address? That's the first subtask, right? The second subtask here is, given a phone number like this, look at this. My phone number consists of digits from 0 to 9. It can consist of any other digits. It can consist of space. It can consist of comma. It can consist of hyphen. Or it can also consist, not comma, I'm sorry. It can consist of, open braces, close braces, hyphen or space. For example, and it's a 10-digit, again, my phone number, look at this phone number, right? The phone number is 10-digited. There are exactly 10 digits. But again, different parts of the world write phone numbers differently, right? In the US, they write 3 digits, followed by 3 digits, hyphen, followed by 3 digits, hyphen, followed by 4 digits. In India, they write in many, many different ways. So imagine if I have a 10-digited phone number, which consists exactly of 10 digits, but in addition to 10 digits, I could have hyphen, I can have open parenthesis, close parenthesis or space. Given this, I want to mask this. So for example, they could, my bank could send an SMS. My bank could send a email saying, I've sent your OTP to your registered mobile number, which is dash dash. So I want you to print this. I want you to convert a given phone number in this format to this format, right? So the two tasks are simple, right? The first task is email masking. The second task here is phone number masking. Very simple questions, right? So let's take the email masking. Imagine my string is this. Again, my strings are, what I give as an input is just a valid email address. It's just an email address. What I want to output, look at this. I want it to retain the first character as is, the last character in the name. Look at this. In the name, I want it to retain the last character as is. Whatever is there in between, I want it to be replaced by 5 hashes. Ampersand, the domain name stays the same. Any suggestions on how we can solve it? Let's start with email. We'll go to phone digits later. Let's start with email. Any suggestions, guys? Okay. So somebody is asking, can you share the link to this document? I'll share it by the end of this live session, just like the previous live sessions. At the end of it, I'll put it under this video itself, right? Just like the previous ones. Okay, using sub. Okay, there are many ways. By the way, there are many ways of solving this. There is no single way. I mean, I could think of 3 or 4 ways myself in just a few minutes. So there are many ways of solving it. Use replace. Okay. Okay. Split with ampersand and dot after this. Blah blah blah. Length. Okay. Okay. Split. People are suggesting. Again, you can solve it using substitute. There are many ways. Sub basically means regular expression substitute. There are many ways of doing it. Yes, some of you are thinking, but try to write the code. That's the fun part, right? So, okay. So first and foremost, again, my suggestion here is we don't even have to do a lot of complex regular expressions for this task. We can just do it using string formatting. You don't require any fancy regular expressions for this. I wanted to show you that. Again, if somebody doesn't know what is string formatting, there is this very nice blog. Again, I borrowed an image from this blog. It's a beautifully written blog. I'm sharing the link. Please read it. It's very well written blog. This diagram has been taken from the Programmiz blog itself, right? So I hope all of you remember string formatting, right? We all string formatting is used when you're trying to print something in a specific format. So the string formatting works like this. Here, what do I have? Here I have a string here, right? For those of you who have forgotten this, everything in double quotes is a string. Within the string, see, you can call the format function on any string, right? So this is a string and I have a format. So what it does is within the string, if I have these curly braces 0, so curly braces 0 is replaced by the 0th argument, So when I actually, if I print this, if I run this whole statement and I print it, what I get is hello, Adam. So the parenthesis, the curly parenthesis, the curly braces 0 is replaced by argument 0, right? Next, look at this. Next, what do you have here? You have, similarly, you have 1 here. Again, within curly braces, you have 1 here. The 1 represents argument 1. Now we are formatting this argument 1 with some number of digits after the decimal and the total number of digits being 9. Again, this is basically your formatting of a float, right? This is basically a float formatting, right? Again, those of you who don't know string formatting or who have forgotten it, here is a resource that I've pointed to. Please use it. It's a very good resource. So my argument here is I can do it without using any fancy stuff. I can simply use basic string functionality. Look at this. Okay. Okay. So let's go look at this. Okay. I have some follow-up questions for you also. So I'm just writing a function. This is my S, right? I'm defining this function called mask email, wherein I'm passing a S. Now, first thing that I'm checking here is if ampersand exists in S. If there is no ampersand, I mean, this is not obviously a valid email. Without doubt, it's not a valid email. So what is the first thing that I check for? If ampersand is in this string, right? If ampersand exists in this string, what am I returning? First, I'm splitting the string with ampersand. So what is string.split? If you don't know how string.split works, just Google search and go to the documentation. String split Python. W3 Schools has some good resource, I'm sure, but I prefer sometimes reading the original documentation because I know split. Okay, where is the split function now? Typo. Split. So string split. Okay, split str.split. Okay, string split basically says what is the separator. Okay, so returns a list of words in a string using separator as the delimiter string, right? Basically it says what do you want to delimit it with. So given this string, it is going to use ampersand as a delimiter, which means it will use this as a delimiter. It will return all of them as the first string. It will return all of this as the second string. So what does it return? Remember, what is the input and what is the output? To this function, the separator is one input. What does it output? Returns a list of words. That list of words, I'm going to assign it to name and domain. So because I know if there exists an ampersand, this first part will go to name, right? So the second part will go to domain, right? Simple. So I got the name, I got the domain. Now, what is it that I want to achieve? Look at this. I'm just writing. So I want to print this. Look at this. This is basically a string. And what do I want to print? I have my name and domain, right? String.format, name 0. What does name 0 contain? Look at this. Name contains this whole thing. So name 0 will contain A. So this A will be printed here because this 0 basically represents the 0th argument here. So A gets printed here, followed by 5 hashes. Then the first argument. What is the first argument? Name -1. I hope you know the indexing of arrays, right? And indexing of strings. -1 basically means from the last. So name contains this whole thing from the last, the first one, which is D. So it will print D here. So it will print A followed by 5 hashes, followed by D, at is there. Then you have $2. Sorry, not $2. I'm sorry. Curly parenthesis 2. Curly parenthesis 2 is domain. So it will actually print whatever efgh.com. That's it. I didn't use any regular expressions. I just split the string into the name part and the domain part. The name part, I took the first character, I took the last character. Again, I'm not saying this is the only way of doing it. This is one of the simple ways of doing it. All I'm using is string functionality. I'm not using regular expressions here. But whenever you write code like this, you should always write boundary cases and test cases. First and foremost. Again, this is something that I ask even machine learning engineers, right, in interviews. I used to ask this even in my previous companies also. I used to ask very simple questions and I used to ask, what happens in this case? Will your code work in this case? Or in which cases will your code fail? Because I want to see people thinking thoroughly about their code. For software engineers, this is like super duper important. Machine learning all engineers also it's important, but for software engineers, because they're going to write production quality code, any mistakes, it's a big mess. So whenever you write any code like this, you should always check for boundary cases. So what happens if my name consists of only one alphabet? Will this work? How does it work? Look at this. If I do it, what I get is this. And this is in a way good because I'm still masking. Because if I just printed A and if I did not print any of these hashes, you're not serving the purpose of masking, right? So it's a good thing that we masked it. That's good. Now what happens if my email does not contain ampersand, right? Because I've not handled that case. In such a case, functions default return none, right? So if we call this function from some other function, we have to handle the case that this function could also return none, right? That's important. That's a boundary case we should handle. So what if the other problem, right? So what if my email address that I give contains ampersand, but it's not a valid email address. There is no .com here or .in or dot something. What if this is not a valid email address? There are two possibilities. One, you could say the purpose of the mask email is not to verify whether the email is correct or not. For that, we'll have to write in another function, right? So as a software engineer or as a machine learning engineer, again, this is mostly software engineering, not so much machine learning engineering here. But when you write code, you have to be very careful to handle all these cases, right? So when you input this, you're getting this output. It's serving the purpose. But you should always check if the email is valid using another function if you have to. Right? Any suggestions how we can verify whether an email address is valid or not? Again, this is a very, 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 very common interview question asked in many, many companies. They just ask you, can you write a simple function to verify whether a given email address is valid or not? Any suggestions? Oh, somebody says, how can an email not have ampersand? Yes, that's a point, right? So what if number of hashes must match the characters present in the mail address? You can write it again. I mean, take it as an assignment, right? It's not hard. You can do it. It's not rocket science. Dot after, okay. So you're going to check whether there is dot after this or not. Okay, that's one simple trick. But again, to compose emails, there are a bunch of rules. Okay? There are a bunch of rules in composing emails. For example, when I was a student, right? So I used to have this email address. I think it was Verma. Oh, it was Verma, yes. It was verma@iasc.ernet.in. Look at this. In this part, there are multiple dots here. This email address does not work anymore. This was email address from almost a decade ago when I was a student at Indian Institute of Science. Right? So my email address was verma@iasc.ernet.in. So even multiple dots is also a valid email address. Again, there are a bunch of rules that the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C as it is called as, they have a bunch of rules on what is a valid email address. Again, you can make it very, very complex or you can make it very simple. So let's look at a slightly more complex example, right? So so again, Sumit, what you just mentioned here, right? Which is if the ampersand doesn't exist or .com not in the string. Hey, why .com? I just gave you an example, right? Need not always be .com. What if it is something like this? Verma@iasc.ernet.in. It's a Government of India institution, right? ernet.in. This was actually my student email address, right? Doesn't have a .com, right? So again, interviewers could complicate this question. I've seen software engineering interviews where people have complicated this problem to such an extent that it would take a good software engineer almost half an hour to write all the cases. I've seen this. I've seen some programming contests, and even when companies like Amazon go to universities, they give this as a programming task. And they say, these are all the rules, now solve this problem. And you can actually solve this, if you know regular expressions well, you can actually solve this in 15-20 minutes at maximum. Okay, let's solve. Again, I'm not saying this is the best definition. I've taken this from other interesting sources. Again, I've not written this myself. I've taken it from other sources, but I'll explain you and step by step, right? So import regular expressions, right? Again, I'm going to use a regular expression as you might expect, is valid email address. Okay. So as I told you, please refer to this W3 schools document if you don't know regex syntax. Okay. There is also, again, I wanted to re-emphasize that point. Sorry, that if you want more tutorial, if you're not comfortable with regex basics, please go through these tutorials. Also go through the documentation here. I always keep the documentation handy because I'm one type of guy. I have a very bad memory of things. If I don't learn something logically, I forget it within no time. Okay, so I actually got this string from, let me show you. I actually got this string from Geeks for Geeks, right? There are like thousands of programs that people have written. I said, why should I put my mind to it? Let's just copy paste that. Now this is the string that I got, and this looks like crazy, man. This looks extremely cumbersome. Like, how do you make head and tail of it? One of the biggest problems with regular expressions. Again, if you don't know regular expression search, the way it works is this. Okay, so this is the pattern that you give. This is the pattern that you give. This is a string in which you want to compare this pattern with the string. And re.ignore case basically means just ignore whether capital letters or lowercase or uppercase, all that. Because email addresses anyway are always in lowercase. So re.ignore case basically says whether your string is in uppercase or lowercase, just ignore that and try to match. Now the reason why lot of regular expressions are cumbersome is this looks like some alien language. It's again, I mean, this is not trivial, right? I hate this type of syntax because I personally don't like it, because this is not at all readable. This is not at all readable. Imagine if you write production quality code like this and somebody has to come after you and understand what the heck you have written. Again, I used to write code in Perl for a short while. I hated the language because Perl would do something like this beautifully. I've read production quality code when I was at Yahoo Labs, where people wrote like cryptic stuff like this, and it would take me hours to debug. They would write like lines of something like this, and I'm like, guys, what the heck is wrong with you? One of the most important things with software is readability. So if you write it like this, your code will work. But as a good software programming habit, please don't write code like this. There is a better way to write it. I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. Okay, but let's try to read it. Anyway, if you have to do it, let's do it. What it says is, it starts, this is start, this is end. We know that, cool. What does /w mean? /w plus. Let's break it logically into pieces, no? This part we have understood, this part we have understood. This is starting, ending. What does this say? /w plus. What does /w mean? Again, if you don't know, there is always the reference here. What does plus mean? Plus means causes the regular expression to match one or more repetitions. Plus basically means one or more repetitions. Now /w, what does that mean? Is it capital W? It's a lowercase w, right? Again, lowercase and uppercase matters. So if you go here is the first instance of W. Okay, characters such as W case, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here they are not defining what it is. Okay, let me go up. Let's see where it is. Again, the first occurrence is where a lot of fun is, oftentimes. Fronts /W. Okay, jing. Where is W? Okay, here it is. What does it say? Lowercase w is different from uppercase w. Okay, lowercase w says it matches Unicode word characters. This includes most characters that can be part of a word in any language. Again, ASCII and Unicode are different. I hope you all know that. Unicode basically means, ASCII basically is your typical A to Z, capital A to Z, lowercase a to z, 0 to 9, underscore, etc. Unicode basically means you can write characters in Hindi, you can write characters in Telugu, you can write characters in Chinese, all of them are there in Unicode, right? So /w matches any Unicode character, right? Not just ASCII, any character in any language. So what does this part start with? Again, documentation is important. Whenever I read this, because the person who wrote this code could have used anything, so I always go back to documentation. So this says you are starting with any character plus one, plus basically means one or more repetitions. Any character but one or more repetitions, followed by, you have this parenthesis. Okay, So within the parenthesis, what is there? Again, parenthesis is also used for other purposes in regular expressions that we'll see later. Okay, just ignore that. So first, this basically means one or more repetitions of a Unicode character, followed by, again, dot means something special, right? Dot, we saw this earlier, right? What does dot mean? Dot means dot will match any single character. Dot will match any single character. So if you don't want it to match with a single character, but if you want it to match with an actual dot, right? What do? You say /. Slash dot is called the escape key. This is called the escape, escape character, right? It's called the escape character. So what this does is it matches with only dot, right? Now what does the square parenthesis mean? Again, if you don't know, this is how you read it. Again, I'm showing you a couple of examples. You will have to break this down. What does square parenthesis mean? So characters can be listed individually. So if you write anything in square parenthesis like this, this will match A, this will match M. So what it means is A or M or K. That's what this means, right? That's one way of writing it. You can also write it this way. In square parenthesis, you can write A to Z. It will match all the lowercase from A to Z. You can write 0 to 5. It will match any of the numbers from 0 to 5, right? So that's what this part basically means, right? Now, again, in the interest of time, I want you guys to figure out what this whole thing does line by line. So you have to go step by step. Again, reading others' regular expressions is a great way to learn about it. But I don't like this way of writing regular expressions. I'll show you a better way in a couple of minutes. In the interest of time, I've shown you how to read this. I've shown you how to read this. What does question mark mean? Again, if you don't know, if you know it, great. If you know it, you can immediately understand. If you don't know what question mark means, just go to the top of the document where question mark is used. Okay, where is question mark used? Yes. Causes the resulting regular expression to match 0 or 1 repetition only. Right? So like for example, AB question mark matches A. Why does it match A? Because this means 0 or 1 repetition of B. It also matches AB. It will not match ABB. Look at this. It will not match ABB. Because ABB has 2 repetitions of B. So it will not match this. Right? So it's very, very common for people to forget the whole syntax and the rules of writing regular expressions. But it's good to read some of these so that you know what to use. Again, documentation is king here. Again, even to write some of this, while I've borrowed this from other places, I've written another one and I've done it using this. I can't write it out of my memory because I don't remember all these symbols at the top of my head. I remember some of them, but not all. Okay. Now let's assume we got this from the internet. Okay. We also always, as usual, you have to give credit to where you get the data from or where you took the snippet of code from. So what am I doing here? re.search, I'm searching for this. It returns some res. I want to print this. If res, return true or else return false. Let's check if this works first because this is not something that we have written. So we don't know how this works. Let's write a few test cases. Okay, so this does not have dot, so it's failing. Even this is failing. Look at this. Even this is failing. Why is it failing? Because this also takes care of the fact that what if you have dot, if you don't have .com, if you don't have 3 characters here, .com is okay, .in is okay. So 2 or 3, look at this, 2 characters after the dot is okay, 3 characters is also okay. For example, Canada has .ca, US has .us, right? So all this .in, .de for Germany, Deutschland, right? .fr. So all these are valid, but you will not see anywhere with A, with 1 character. This is not valid. So which means in the domain name at the end, you either have 3 characters or 2 characters. That's why this is used, right? So I wanted to, again, I just scanned through this. I saw, okay, they're doing a good job here and etc, right? So all that is cool. Now I've tested this. This is not working and it should not. Does this work? Yes, this is working. And I also, look at this. I'm also printing res in my code. As usual, I always print the outputs of functions to understand what is happening. And this says this is re.match object. We talked about what is a class, what is object, right? So if you want to understand more about it, Just Google search for it. re.match Python. Okay. Documentation, cool. Okay. re.match. Sorry. So you should look at the documentation of this class. Okay, there is re.match here. Okay, re.match. No, re.match is the match function. What does it return? I want to see the documentation of the class. Okay, so it's giving me the documentation of. Okay, so if you Google search for it, you will get the documentation. Blah blah blah. Match objects. Yes. So there is some documentation here on how to do it. What are groups? There is a ton of stuff to read. If you have time, please read it. Right. So, okay, so it's also working with my abcd at iasc.ac.in or iasc.ernet.in, right? So even if there are multiple dots, it is working, and they've taken care of that actually. Now, while this is I personally don't like it because I've gone through a phase of my career where I was reading, again, I did a lot of work on NLP at various places. And whenever I used to see regular expressions like this would be a nightmare thing to go through. Right? So, okay, here is a better version. This is what I prefer. Okay, this regular expression is highly non-readable. What I personally read is what I personally like is something called as a verbose version of regular expressions. So, what does the verbose version tell you? Again, you can actually, I hope all of you know about regular expression compilation, right? So, you can again, if you don't know, here is a documentation that I've provided, please read it, or if you have forgotten it. So I can write my regular expression in a much more readable format. Like this is much less readable. Here, what am I doing? I'm breaking my regular expression into parts. For each part, I'm also giving a explanation on what this part is, so that the software engineer who comes after me can read this and understand. Right? That's very important. But when you're writing this, you have to mention clearly that this regular expression is a verbose. Verbose basically means you're writing more details. And everything after the hash everywhere will be ignored, thankfully, right? So this is a very, I personally prefer writing regular expressions like this when they get complicated. Now, a regular expression like this, I can write comments and I can say, okay, what this tells me is start followed by this part. What does this part tell me? We have seen this. I know what this part tells me. I know what start tells me. This is readable. So what this whole thing is telling me is valid names in my email address. If my email address is name@domain, right? Now this name is being represented using this. This is much more easy to read. Of course, this is exactly the same as this. I've just taken this part, but I'm writing comments here, making the reading of this whole expression or reading of this whole pattern much more easy. Then I'm saying ampersand, okay? This is basically a single ampersand sign. Then my domain name. This is how my domain name will be. Then I can have multiple. It has to work with .com, .ac.in, .ernet.in, right? There could be multiple dots. This 2-3 part is meant for multiple dots, right? So again, it is ending with a dollar. And why do we have plus? Plus means, look at what does plus mean again. If you're not sure, always plus means it matches one or more repetitions. So what does it do? It says you should have dot. Look at what it says. Look at the ending. It says you should have dot followed by some word, but this word has to be length 2 or 3 and one or more repetitions of it. So .com will work because dot followed by 3 characters, only one repetition, right? .ac.in will work, right? Because 2 words dot this. So this will match, right? So my recommendation, it's a good readable software engineering practice is whenever you write code like this, whenever you write regular expressions, please try to follow the verbose methodology. Again, lot of companies make sure nowadays, especially if you're writing Python code, at least in our team, we used to have this, that please don't write regexes like this, because I used to review code. If you encounter code like this, I would say, sorry, please make it in verbose pattern so that others after you, even if you leave the company, or even you can read it later much more easily. So we always encourage this, and it's a good software engineering practice, right? So this is how we solved it. Again, I want you after this session, I want you to spend some time going through this line by line. Again, I've shown you how to go through this line by line, right? I've explained some of the pieces. Please go through this and try to understand everything. Always keep the Python documentation handy. Again, it is only by writing many such regular expressions and by reading others' regular expressions that you become good at it. There are no shortcuts here. There are no shortcuts. Let's be frank there, okay? Now comes the phone number masking problem, okay? Any suggestions on how we can solve it? Okay, so what is the task here? Let's go to the phone number. We have like 10 minutes, right? Let's finish the phone number masking. So one problem will be, there are two parts to this problem, but I wanted to finish this. Okay, so imagine if my phone number is like this, right? I want to mask it and print it this way. 3 hashes, hyphen, 3 hashes, hyphen, the last 4 digits should be visible. The last 4 digits here are 7890. Again, remember, this could contain open parenthesis, closed parenthesis, hyphens. I said something else, no? Space also, I think. Yeah, space also. It could also contain space. It could contain any of these other symbols. That's okay. So any suggestions on how we can mask it? Actually, in the interest of time, let me go to the solution, right? Because I have a hard 7 p.m. deadline, as I mentioned a while ago. Let's go to the, I mean, it's actually, this is a very simple question. Again, I've seen some companies, especially when they go for campus placements. So when they go for campus placements, even for non-campus placements, especially for freshers, many companies, including companies like Amazon, Microsoft, they conduct a test. It will contain, again, if they go to a campus, they'll conduct the test on the campus. If it is an off-campus, where you go to an Amazon or a Microsoft office, they'll ask you first to go log into one of their boxes, ask you to write a simple test. And the reason for this is a filtering. Suppose imagine for a test, I mean, this is very common, especially at large colleges. Let's assume there is a university like BITS, let's say, where there are thousands of students. No interview panel can, however large the interview panel, they cannot interview these thousands of students. So they'll just give they'll simply give a question, maybe 1 hour question, one hour bunch of multiple choice questions, small programming questions, right? And they'll use this as a filtering criteria, both for campus placements and also on the office campus placements, especially when they have large groups. Like sometimes they get like 100 people coming in and there is only one team to interview, right? So they want to pre-filter to get good candidates. Problems like these, like this, right? Problems like this, phone number masking, they'll give a snippet of code and say, is this code correct or not? Or they could give you 4 snippets of code and say, which snippet of this, which of these snippets of code will work perfectly for this, right? Very common type of questions. Again, this is literally 2 lines of code, okay? So let's go step by step. First, we have, suppose imagine this is my phone number. Anyway, everything which is not numeric, I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this. Anything that is not numeric, not digit, not a decimal digit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. I want to get rid of it. So is there a simple way to get rid of it? Yes. That's where the substitute function comes in. The regular expression dot sub. Again, this is called the regular expression substitute function. And if you don't know the documentation, I've placed the link here. What it does is this. Again, if you've forgotten what is /d, it's perfectly okay. People do forget it. Okay. /d. Oh, where is /d? /d is here, right? /D. Come on, guys. You should show me capital D. Where is capital D? Okay, I think I've missed it. So let me go up. Yes, capital. Again, small d, lowercase d is different from capital D, right? So matches any character which is not a decimal digit. Remember, matches everything that is not a decimal digit. This is exactly the opposite of lowercase d. Lowercase d matches decimal digits. /uppercase d matches any character which is not a decimal digit. So how does it work now? Look at this. How does the sub function work or substitute function? It says, the way it will work is this. This is a string. In this string, wherever this pattern matches, this pattern will match with anything which is not a decimal digit. So it will match with this, it will match with this, it will match with this. Some of you were suggesting about the sub function even for the previous case. No, it's the same thing. So what am I saying? I'm saying wherever you encounter a non decimal digit or non-decimal character, please replace it with nothing. So this basically is an empty string, no? So wherever they encounter this, it will just replace it with an empty string. It will replace this with an empty string. So the moment it is replaced with empty string, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. This is what, this will be, if you print digits. Look at this. If you just print digits, that's what you get here. Again, after every step, please try to print to understand what is happening. This is what I get. Now when I get this, I can easily print what I want using simple format that we saw earlier. Right? Look at this. I can simply format it and everything will work now. How will my format work? Anyway, I don't want to show the first 3 characters are gone. I want to print this. 3 hashes. This last thing, because I did not say anything, this will by default point to the first argument here. Because I could have also written 0 here. We have seen the format function earlier, right? So what does this give me? This tells me from the 4th character, from the very ending. So I have what? I have this now in my digits. This is what I have in my digits, right? Everything, again, -4 basically means from the end 4th digit, from the end 4th digit to the end, right? This is how you index arrays. This is how you index strings, right? So now what does it do? My masked contains now, if I print it, it will get the last 4 digits as is. The first 6 digits are masked with this. Problem solved. But is this solution correct? Again, whenever you write code, please write boundary cases. Now what if, look at this. So first boundary case that I can think of is, what if after I remove all the non-digit characters, what if I have less than 10 digits, right? So first thing we should always check is, again, this is a boundary case we should always handle in your code, right? You did this, if length of digits is not equals to 10, return 0, return none, right? It's an important boundary case that we should always handle, right? Very important. You can again run something like this. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's where are we? Okay, this works. Yeah, I just added this and I'm running it. That's it. So the next thing that I want you to do is this. Okay, small exercise before, again, I don't think we'll have time for problem 2, but problem 2 is very interesting. We'll discuss it the first thing tomorrow morning, right? So the next exercise that we have here is, exercise problem from this is, you have 12-digit phone numbers with the first 2 digits being ISD code. Look at this. First 2 digits are the international code, right? International code is often, it will always start with plus, right? So imagine if your phone number is given like this. International code for India is +91, right? So imagine instead of your phone number, which is 10 digit, imagine if somebody gives you a 12-digit phone number, which should always start with plus. The first 2 digits are always ISD code. The last 10 digits can be anything. Given this, this is how I want to mask it. I want to keep the international code, but I want to print the international code in simple parenthesis. The next 6 digits I want to mask. The last 4 digits I want to print. This simple extension, whatever we have learned till now, a simple extension to that, right? Very simple exercise. Sounds good. Tomorrow, the first thing, again, I'll share this document. I don't think I can share it right away. I'll share it immediately after my meeting is over, or I'll ask one of my teammates to share this right away. Okay. Next problem is very interesting. Next problem here is, again, this is a question that we get asked a lot from our students. I'm given a PDF invoice. Okay, I'll show you an example. It's a very good problem. Imagine I'm given an invoice. I've downloaded this invoice from a website, right? I've downloaded this from this website, right? So the question here is, given a PDF like this, you can download it. I want to extract, let's say, this total due amount, right? Or I want to extract this total amount. Or I want to extract, let's say, this email address, right? Okay, sorry, quit. Or I want to extract this invoice number. Or I want to extract this order number. Or I want to extract this date. So again, a lot of invoices of companies are actually in PDF formats because people don't want it to be modified, right? So given an invoice like this, how do we extract information from this using Python, right? Again, I'm assuming here that the format is fixed. Again, we'll see what if formats keeps changing. We'll discuss that in tomorrow's live session, right? So what if we have an invoice like this? How do you extract information from here? using regular expressions and simple Python packages. That's what we'll discuss starting the very first thing tomorrow in live session. Tomorrow again 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. we'll do this. There again I think we only could cover one live session today because I wanted to go through some basics of regexes. Regex documentation is very extensive. I wanted to walk you through regular expression documentation also a little. Tomorrow we'll focus, again, please go through the documents that I've shared here so that we can move faster tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be going faster with regular expressions and strings so that we can solve at least 4 problems tomorrow, right? So we'll start with the Python, we'll start with this extracting data from Pdf invoices. It's a very simple, very good problem. We'll start with this, then we'll take up a couple of problems that are asked in various interview questions at various companies, including product-based companies, okay? Okay, folks, sorry, I cannot spend more time, and it's actually simple. Extracting data from PDF is very simple. Let me do one thing. I'll share this whole sheet with you. Those of you who want to go through this, go through it, it's okay. Because I've only done part of this, I have not finished it completely. Go through it, it's a very simple tool. I'll share this whole document with you. Those of you who are, again, it's very simple. You just have to use a library called PyPDF. You just call this simple PyPDF, you just use this library and you can extract all the text. Once you extract the text, it's all about using regular expressions to extract data from here. I've extracted some data here. I'll add more to this I'll add more, okay. I have much more to cover here. So I'll add more cases for tomorrow's live session, right? I'll share problem 2 also. Tomorrow I'll come up with 2-3 more problems so that we'll have 4 problems for tomorrow's live session. But please do cover regular expressions and come for the live session, because our objective here is to solve problems more and more so that we are spending more time on code walkthroughs and on problem solving rather than explaining basics, which our course students, anyway, we cover it mostly in the course. People who are outside our course, I'm assuming that you know some basic Python. If you don't know, here are resources that you can use, right? Sounds good, folks. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Sorry, I have to run to the next meeting.